Everybody, zoomed in this week. Feeling a little, I think I should have got a haircut before I came online. 4K is kind of scary. So we're here. So I'll give you everybody a few minutes and then we'll get started. Obviously, if you have a question, throw it out. If I miss it now, we'll get onto it when we get through the first part of the show. Bjorn making it first again this week. That should mean it's a good week. I think that's bullish. So awesome. Let's see what happens to price while we're sitting here for an hour. How's the microphone, guys? I switched back to my old mic this week. Last week we had a few issues with the mic, I guess. Jesus, what am I? Sounds good. All right, cool. Okay, very good. So yeah, let's just give it a minute. Geez, I should have shaved too. You know, it's amazing when you see yourself like on a webcam and then you get a better camera with 4K, or I think it's even that 4K. We're at like 10. We're at regular just 1080p. And Jesus, could have used a shave and a haircut. Oh, anyway, do that next week, I guess. Sorry about that. Apologize. Turn the video off when you just listen. Just listen. Yeah, well, I didn't want to go to 4K. We specifically didn't set the 4K. I guess one for bandwidth. The other is I don't know if anybody wants to see me in 4K, to be honest. It might just break the internet, and not really for a good reason. So I was gonna green screen the back of the office and then have myself walk in as I was speaking. But yeah, I didn't get that far. A little too busy here, actually, doing things I guess that matter more, which I guess should be a good thing, I would hope. All right, guys, I guess we'll get started. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, like, more than once. Jesus, Everybody's worried about Bjorn coming in first. Nobody wants to give a thumbs up. I don't know what to say about that. I thought our community was tighter. I'll shed a tear later, but let's get it going, and then we'll come back to answer some questions. How's that? So if it's your first time here, my name is Kevin Murcko. I'm CEO here at CoinMetro. We do this every week. It's called This Week in Crypto. It's a 4-part show, 4 parts, right? So the first part we do a little bit of market news. We have 10 pieces of market news curated by our elite Telegram group. Thanks, guys and gals, for that. Over the past week, I go over each one. If it's something that triggers me a bit, usually what triggers me is Binance. I like to say that every week just to forewarn everybody. If there's a story about Binance, or regulations sometimes can trigger me a bit too. It might take a little bit more than a minute, but generally within 1 minute to 2 minutes, we're off to the next one. So within 10 to 20 minutes, we move on from market news onto Kevin Explains Crypto. I just get a term thrown at me every week, or a phrase or a sentence, something usually related to crypto, sometimes indirectly, and I try to define what it means. Then we move on to live Q&A right here on YouTube, so you can throw your questions up here. I'll answer them. You can throw it up now and wait. You can come back, get a drink, not listen to me for 20 minutes, don't care about the news. I don't know. You do what you want. But if you want to ask a question, come back, pop it in, or pop it in now, and I'll scroll back and answer it when I get there. And the last one on the agenda is Reddit questions. So we do have, looks like 2, how many question marks we got in here? Maybe 1. It's a very long Reddit question this week. So I'll get to that Reddit question probably before we go back live. So let's just start with market news and we'll move on. So number 1 on a list of 10 this week, Coinbase wants to sell blockchain analysis software to the IRS and DEA after its Neutrino acquisition. Right on. So I don't know how many times I've said this on the show, but exchange business only, no matter how big you are, whether you're Coinbase, whether you're Binance, whether you're CoinMetro, can never be your sole income source because regulations get tighter, costs get higher, compliance costs get higher, and inevitably you have more and more competition and more regulated competition with large client bases that can simply offer services you've been charging for free, and then you have no business. So Coinbase over the past, I would say 2 years, has been systematically moving towards a more service-orientated and institutional business. So they've started to put a lot of focus on, Coinbase Pro. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the platform's great, because it's not, but they're systematically moving towards, custody, providing different types of their Coinbase Pro platform, and now actually doing analytics. They obviously have a lot of data. Most of the data, probably for most blockchain analytics firms, comes from Coinbase, to be quite honest, a vast majority of it. So I saw some stir on Telegram, I think even on Twitter, about people pissed off about this, but it was inevitable. So again, it's like you can get mad at the world about certain things, but when those things are obvious and you're just mad about it, you just weren't informed or educated enough to see it coming. So it's kind of your own fault. I would say that at the end of the day, all this does is help mass adoption, right? Unfortunately, to get us to mass adoption in, let's say, phase 1, which we're still sitting in, it's getting governments and mainstream pundits familiar and comfortable with the technology. And this is one way to do it. So look, if you're a criminal, don't use Bitcoin. So that's it. Don't use Dash or Monero either, because Dash is already actually on Chainalysis, for example, as of recently. But Monero more than likely at some point will be as well, because the more data you get from outside, the easier it is to pinpoint even private transactions. Number 2 on a list of 10, research. Most exchange tokens are undervalued. Oh, I guess this is the no shit Sherlock statement of the week here. I would change that to most to 1 exchange token is undervalued. I'll let you guess which one I think that is. But yes, what happened is that exchange tokens, for the most part, unless we're talking about maybe about KuCoin, which is obviously a security, most exchange tokens are utility in nature. You had the ICO bubble. Everybody thought ICOs were great. Utility tokens were going to change the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then let's say newspaper articles and magazine articles from writers that have no idea what they're talking about came out and said that everything was a fraud. And that kind of pulled everybody away from the ICO phase. And then utility tokens started to become the pariah. They're starting to make a comeback now. But what happens is that there's still no direct there wasn't in the beginning a direct correlation with utility token value and value of the underlying company. But as predicted, as these companies mature, the market itself is starting to align value with underlying value. And because the spotlight, the markets where, for instance, XCM trades at CoinMetro, which means the only people that see it are the people trading at CoinMetro. It's not traded on some type of central exchange, and thus, at the end of the day, it has less exposure. If it had the same exposure as, let's say, a NASDAQ, it definitely would be valued higher. So I think that's right. And it's mainly due not so much to the fact that every exchange that has a token is doing amazing things and their token should be worth more money. It's the simple fact that most exchange tokens are traded on one single exchange, which means that they only get the exposure from that exchange. And so they don't get the wider exposure, and that correlation between value and underlying token value just simply isn't there yet. Number 3 on the list of 10, Brave browser faces heat from users amidst referral link autofill scandal. Yeah, well, Brave browser wants to make some money. You're not adding an affiliate to a link, and they add one for you. Do you pay more money? Maybe even got discounts. Who knows? I get the whole. I think this kind of a lot of younger generations, younger than I am. I think every generation has the thing that we focus on that we think is important. And usually it's not all that important, but we focus on it and it becomes our thing. So, what is it? Gen Z right now, I guess, is really focused on, kind of owning your own data, understanding what's going on with your data, not getting the rug pulled over your eyes or whatever, and having everything transparent, which is great. I love transparency. But at the same time, I think this can be slightly overblown here. I do think, though, Brave browser is all about kind of protecting people's privacy. But when you protect privacy, you aren't transparent. You guys get that, right? I mean, when you're a browser that allows private browsing to cloak the data of the person who's doing the browsing, that is inherently untransparent. So I'm not sure why anybody would assume a company that literally its only service is to be inherently untransparent would be transparent in telling you that they're making money off some of your untransparent browsing activities. So I don't know. I would say on this one, I don't know, put your big boy pants on, grow up and move on. Number 4 on the list of 10, Deutsche Börse exchange to list new Bitcoin exchange traded product. Yeah, so an ETP. Those who don't know what an ETP is, exchange traded product, it's basically anything that's traded on an exchange that is usually not deliverable. There's already ETPs on Bitcoin. In fact, the first ETP on Bitcoin, I believe, was in Sweden, and it was 3 years ago. This is not a big story. I love how everybody tries. Every time there's something that happens, when something is perceived to be institutional or perceived to be a step forward, you're taking an illiquid asset, that's Bitcoin, and turning it into an asset with unlimited liquidity, correlated with the risk that the issuer is willing to take. So I don't see how that's good for the market. I don't necessarily see how it helps the underlying. And I don't get why everybody thinks this is news. Deutsche Börse is late to the game. Like, come on, guys, go back to drinking beer and eating sausages because you're 3 years late on this one. It's not news. Nobody cares, and it's not going to change price. It might get Deutsche Börse a few old clients that don't know what a wallet is and think this is cool. But the same guys that are complaining about Brave browser, I don't think give half a shit about an ETP product on a very small German exchange that has less than, I think, 3% of the overall retail volume in Germany. So yeah, who cares? Number 5 on the list of 10, Chinese state media CCTV says Binance still lets users trade crypto in the country. Yeah, I guess this is my second no shit Sherlock comment. Binance not following the rules. Jesus, can somebody have the phone number to the New York Times? I mean, can we speed dial these guys? Look, maybe whoever pushed this story out thought it was news. I guess it's news, but it's kind of like the same news we get all the time. Binance doesn't follow any rules. It's what's allowed them, I guess, fortunately for them, what's allowed them to kind of grow to the size they are. What's unfortunate is at some point when you don't follow the rules, there's no way to start following them. Because the minute you start to follow them, all the rules you didn't follow kind of come out in the open and backfires pretty hard. So of course they're still onboarding Chinese. I mean, obviously. I mean, like 100% obviously. I guarantee you they have clients from every country in the world, including North Korea, on their books. 100%. They still service US clients through their main Binance, 100%. Why? Well, because they can. Not because they can, legally speaking, but because they don't follow any rules. You know, it's every time there's, especially in finance, but any regulated, imagine if you're a pharmaceutical company and you're trying to compete with a guy on the street that can do whatever he wants because he doesn't have to follow any rules. So you're trying to make a product, takes you 5 years to develop, 3 years worth of testing, 4 years worth of clinical trials, and then you can finally launch it. And 3 days after you decided to make the product, somebody else was selling it on the street. Obviously, the guy on the street's going to make a lot of money and real quick, but eventually he gets arrested and goes to jail. That's kind of how it works. Works the same way in finance. So number 5 on the list, number 6, sorry, on the list of 10, Coinbase cuts rewards on USDC stablecoin holdings by nearly 90%. Yeah, this has been a topic in the office. So what happened is there's a lot of companies, right, that are trying to move into the staking and paying interest, relatively high interest on crypto deposits. I don't think anybody really sits down and questions how they do that. Like, where are they getting the interest from? They're not just, where they paying this out of their pocket to be nice? Well, of course not, right? There has to be a way that they're generating the actual interest to be able to pay it. Most of the way they generate that interest is simply through loans. And those loans usually come in the form of trading loans or margin trading, right? Now, at some point, you reach a kind of plateau where there's simply nobody else asking for loans. And thus, you have too much open supply, too much exposure. You can't pay the same interest rate. So Coinbase quickly found out how that works. So yeah, they had to go down from, what was it, roughly 2% down to 0.15 or something like that. And that, well, we don't have fractional reserve banking in crypto. Everybody likes to badmouth the banks and say that the system is broken and the system is, kind of tilted towards the rich. And I can't say that that's not true, but now you see, what you need to realize is that when those things are created, fractional reserve banking, when it was created, there wasn't somebody in the room generally. It's not a shadow game all the time. It's not 4-dimensional chess all the time. It was, how do we expand? What happens when when we go into these bubbles, right? After World War II, going into and then out of a recession, especially out of a recession, when the economy expands so quickly that there's not enough money supply, or when people need money. Housing is one of the biggest GDP factors in every major country. How do we make sure that people, well, you loan money. Well, how do we loan money if we don't have enough money on fractional reserve banking? So the idea behind fractional reserve is solving the problem that Coinbase has right now. The end result, though, of fractional reserve banking is that the smart guys at the top that have access and the know are the ones that take advantage of it. And that's why it becomes kind of a tool for the rich to steal money from the poor. But that probably isn't why it was invented in the first place. Just a caveat. Numbers, told you I go off on a tangent sometimes. So number 7 on the list of 10, 2 small outgoing ETH transactions with 2.5 million in fees from the same address in 2 days. Yeah. So anybody that's thinking about, DeFi, why isn't DeFi bigger? Why isn't crypto mass adopted? Why aren't we using Ethereum or Bitcoin transactions to pay our mortgages and our rents and our car payments? Well, that's one of the reasons. The fact that there's so many complexities on the backside leads to there's many ways to obfuscate and do transactions, do them in a different way, try to hide data, even hiding in plain sight. There's things that a regular doesn't understand what this means. They it would take them time to understand even why they would think it might be bad or good, and that's why we haven't made it forward yet. This kind of user experience problem with crypto, and this underscores that user experience problem. This doesn't happen. You can't send a SWIFT transaction or a SEPA transaction or a faster payments transaction for 1 cent and then deduct $1 billion from your account for fees so that it doesn't appear as the transaction. That's not possible, right? If it was, there'd be massive amount of bank fraud and scams going around. But it's not possible. Here, it's possible, and it shouldn't be. Number 8 on the list of 10, cryptos on Coinbase new exploratory list. See price jump 17% on average. So I had a thought about this one because obviously I read this prior to sitting here. Not this specific headline, but another, maybe even the same news story. Don't know. So when you're going to do an IPO, normally people know an IPO is going to happen. I'm talking about in traditional markets, right? But no one has access to that IPO. No one can actually trade that IPO anywhere else because it's not on the market yet. It's not like it's an OTC IPO. It's an IPO on NASDAQ or on the Dow or wherever, or another market outside the US, whether it's the CAC, the FTSE, the Nikkei, whatever. You have an IPO that's coming, and until it actually gets launched on the exchange, no broker can actually trade it. So, and the only people that get access initially are those that go through the original underwriter, which is usually a small group of people. Again, one of the problems with traditional markets is access, right? So here we all have access. That's great. But what happens is you have Coinbase putting this exploratory listing, and then the hype starting to move out into the market. And because you can trade that asset elsewhere, the price starts to move. I don't know if I like that or not. I like the fact that it's free. I like free markets. Free markets are great. But I'm not sure I care for the fact that a company can basically front run the entire market. It's almost like a spoof and front running all crammed into one without having to risk a single euro, dollar, or pound. They simply throw something on that exploratory board, whether they're really going to list it or not. They make sure they have orders at competing exchanges. They make a quick 17% return, and then they don't list the asset, or they do, and they already got a decent return that's de-risked from their own platform. Not sure I like that. I think when crypto becomes more regulated, things like this, not going to happen. Number 9, a list of 10, Pentagon documents reveal the U.S. is planned for a Bitcoin rebellion. This is a funny one. So before everybody kind of gets all crazy about this one, war games happen in the U.S., and that's literally a game that depicts some type of war scenario, happen in the U.S. all the time. I mean, they happen in other countries as well, but U.S. war games are quite famous. They are constantly going on, and they do war games for some of the most weirdest things you've probably ever heard. And things that even if you saw them on a television show would seem ridiculous. This I think was done in 2017 or 2018. Bitcoin had really started to gain some mass popularity, and they were simply tracking that they were seeing the fact that Bitcoin was obviously initially used by kind of anarchists, and were saying, okay, what if they were trying to throw, what if there's a scenario where people are trying to throw over the government And part of them trying to do that was using this currency that we have no access to, we can't control, and thus they can move money around when we can't freeze it, which becomes a problem for law enforcement. Imagine a terrorist organization that can freely move money around the world without any ability for any government anywhere to stop them. And that was pretty much what the war game was about. But it is kind of cool that it gets released now. And it's a decent story. I mean, those war games can be quite interesting, but I wouldn't jump to conclusions about this one, to be honest. Plus, to be honest, since that war game happened, the view, even from the US, don't ever trust what the government says on TV when they have a belief that it's the actual, they almost always do the opposite. So when Steve Mnuchin, who, I mean, Jesus, I'd love to meet this guy in person. I'd love to have a debate with him, actually. I think it would be comical, to say the least. But, you know, Steve Mnuchin comes out and says, X is that we don't believe in this. We're going to do this. This seems 100% the opposite what they're doing. I mean, so anyway, number 10 on the list of 10, EU nation, Estonia. We're in the news, not necessarily for a good thing. At center of dirty cash storm, cracks down on crypto. So I actually read another version of this story on Cointelegraph. And if anybody out there is from Cointelegraph, you guys suck. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm probably going to try to get some advertisements, you guys, so maybe you don't want to watch this, but write some better stories is what I'm trying to tell you. So they had the title was basically that 220 billion worth of scandal happened. And then they tried to, as if it happened in crypto, which is obviously not the case. It's Danske Bank. There was a $220 billion scandal, actually a bit more than that, through money laundering through Danske Bank, which is, by the way, not an Estonian bank, and was set up in Estonia basically because the parent of the bank knew that setting something up in Estonia was lower risk for them, and they could simply shut the bank down if they had to without affecting their parent company. So definitely not an Estonian kind of, I guess, not an Estonian issue per se, just happened to happen here. But they tried to tie in crypto. And then they tied in the fact that the FIU has already gotten rid of about 450, I think, licenses, cryptocurrency licenses, the VASP licenses, virtual asset service provider licenses in Estonia. So just to give you a little color on this, CoinMetro actually told them to do this back in 2018. We had a meeting right up here on the 5th floor of our office where I told members from the Minister of Finance office, the FSA, which is the main regulator, as well as I think we may have even had somebody in the room from the FIU, that essentially issuing 1,100 or 1,000, whatever it was at the time, crypto licenses was just waiting for disaster. That they absolutely needed to raise the bar, because if they didn't, it was going to be a PR nightmare. Outside of that, they were simply going to lose face. And they're not going to attract real talent. They're simply going to attract people that wanted to pay for a license to do probably nefarious things. Shortly after that, I would say even within, I don't know, 30 to 60, 90 days, I remember how long it was, we received a draft of a new law, and we helped them rewrite the law. That law was then eventually adopted, now becomes the new requirements, which we meet every single one. And all of those licenses that were lost initially were lost mainly because, well, actually not mainly, literally it says in the actual, in the actual article, not the Cointelegraph version, that they were lost because there was no physical presence in the country. Yeah, so we have a physical presence. We meet all the other requirements. We helped write the requirements. We, in fact, added requirements to what the regulator was initially proposing. So moving on. Going to move on to Kevin Explains Crypto real quick, and then we'll get on to these Reddit and or live questions. So this week's Kevin Explains Crypto term is Instamine. Instamine. So this is a little bit of a flashback, I guess, to probably 2017, 2018, somewhere in there, when this term kind of gained popularity. The term Instamine was, during the ICO bubble, everybody was trying to find a gimmick about how they could possibly make their token look better, look more interesting, more unique, have some type of nuance so that people would actually pay attention to it. Instamine was essentially a way, instead of having a cryptocurrency being mined where a specific amount are mined in each block over time, and it's pretty systematic, they allowed a much larger portion of the overall supply to be mined in a much shorter amount of time. So essentially it skews the probably fair model of mining and allows a small amount of people to mine a vast majority of the underlying crypto in a very short amount of time. So that's what Instamine meant. Not really sure it's still a term. I don't think it's actually really used now. There may still be a few companies trying to use it to stick out, to try and get some attention. I don't know. But there you go. Kevin Explains Crypto. Make sure you thumb up this small snippet. Kevin Explains Crypto. Follow us. And obviously listen to more Kevin Explains Crypto because, well, that's what I do. I explain crypto. And I'm Kevin, in case you were wondering and didn't get that point as of yet. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to cover this Reddit question real quick, guys, and then we'll move on. So this is from Robin Timmerman, who, if you've been here for more than 15 seconds, you probably know. He states, hi, Kevin. You have trained compliance staff in fixed employment contract who might be partially without work when new signups are low, but instantly backlog when you launch a marketing campaign, as shown last weekend, or when another BTC bubble forms. Have you considered the option of training up people in a flexible pool to employ them whenever a big wave of new signups are expected? I'm sure you can find some loyal, long-time community members for this. So I'll tackle that in a few parts. So yes, we do have our compliance staff. Actually, is compliance alone is 3 people, right? So we have someone that focuses more on KYT and generally KYC. And then we have more of a legal side, which focuses more on policy and as well kind of AML from that angle, as well as KYC, but mainly more on the policy side. And then we have our customer service and our support staff, which do tier 1. They're the guys that are really, for the most part, doing the vast majority of those KYC checks. So the question comes in, can we kind of train people and have them just sitting on the sidelines? So obviously there are companies, third-party companies that have systems like this, though you tend to pay regardless. So usually what happens is some people will be trained, you're paying for that staff regardless, and then you can kind of scale up. But scaling up is never, let's say, a clean scale up. Why? Because you still have to train. No one's going to train 100 people and then only have 10 people active, and then those other people doing something else, and then calling them up. And plus, with the fact that every promotion is a bit different, training has to evolve with every single promotion. You get different queries over time. It's just not something that's that easy to. The only way to truly scale is to simply have a lot of guys sitting there when you don't need them, and then as you scale, they start to become of use, and always staying ahead of the curve. Meaning, if right now you need 10, you hire 20. And when you get to 15, you hire 10 more. And when you get to 25, you hire 10, 20, 30 more. You just have to stay ahead of the curve and continue. So obviously for us right now, we are, the last promotion obviously hit us pretty hard in terms of the amount of people that were rolling in. But I think we actually scaled up quite nicely internally for people that usually don't focus on KYC, were moved over to focus on KYC. And yeah, there's still a bit of a backlog. That backlog is significantly smaller than what it was. And it shows us that, certain types of promotions target certain types of clients. It doesn't make any sense to scale up for the same type of promotion if those clients don't become active and don't actually make us revenue. So, at the end of the day, I think it's very difficult to kind of do what you said. And yes, maybe some community members, that'd be great. I have to understand, though, that this is access to our, admin back office. It's access to other people's information, other people's documents. It's going to be over probably an unsecured connection. Even if we get connected over a VPN, we're dealing with someone that we might have never met in person, and obviously not saying anything bad about our own community, but you never know, right? So at the end of the day, those specific positions are hard to fill just kind of on oh, hey, would you want to check some KYCs for us? Here's a login. So it has to be a bit more structured than that. Having said that, if there's anybody sitting out there that has any experience doing this type of work that may want to come on and actually maybe be part-time or be on call, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to hear from you, and possibly there's something we could work out. Okay, so moving on to, well, ask me anything, I guess. I think we cleared through everything else. So let me scroll up here, guys, and see if I can find a question amongst the chatter. 4K Kevin. Yeah, I think this is actually 1080p Kevin. Like I said, 4K Kevin. Yeah, no. I mean, but maybe, but just not yet. I have a bit of. I'm gonna do something about this first. So, the monkey and Slimer are looking a little too chummy. Yeah, they've been hanging out in the window for a couple months. I figured I'd give them some camera time. But yeah, they become friends. So yeah, you never know. Hey, Kevin, I hope you're well. Any news on GBP and dashboard updates? Crypto TC coming in with the question that everybody probably wanted to ask. So dashboard will roll out today at some point, a couple hours from now, a few hours from now, some number of hours from now, but today. So there'll be a few more updates encapsulated in that dashboard, including, including we have login, sign up, things that have also been remodeled in the same style as the dashboard. A few other small little tidbits which we'll release on Telegram once they're ready. Everybody hear about them. GBP. So we finally got what we needed to actually launch our initial omnibus accounts and get all the API connectivity done. Literally just an hour, maybe 2 hours ago. So with faster payments, we do have the ability to move GBP. I would say it's faster payments. Unfortunately, all the other company accounts that are GBP aren't connected to faster payments. So we have to move some funds in order to be able to open up transactions. So we've funded both the Euro and the GBP accounts. Funds will probably hit on Monday, guys, because unfortunately the accounts we're using to move the funds in aren't connected to the same payment rails. And while we do have SEPA Instant on SEPA in some of our accounts, the account at Rails, the account at the banking as a service provider, doesn't actually, it's step 2. So it's just a different system. It doesn't clear immediately. It clears a few times a day. So at the end of the day, I believe we're probably going to look to push out publicity, push out advertising, and get this launched for you guys Thursday next week as a hard date. So Thursday next week, pounds will be launched with trading pairs, and yeah, faster payments. All wrapped up in a nice bundle. And by then we'll already have released some additional updates to the dashboard. So it'll be even more fine-tuned than it is today when it gets released in the coming hours. Brian asking if I think CoinMetro is ready for new users. From the past few days, we've seen some errors in exchange, sometimes very slow. Yeah, actually not correlated at all. So there's lots of updates going on in the background. And that's why occasionally you may have seen maybe something slowing down, inputs kind of slowing down. That's because the way the system is modular, but the way the system is made, there's a lot of things that we're updating and trying to update throughout. So some of those input boxes may have some similar updates going on in the background for how we actually parse that data with the data that we're actually, or the system that we're actually putting online for the new dashboard, et cetera. So it has nothing to do with load. It simply has to do with updates going on. And because we initially planned to get this pounds and everything like that updated up online today, there were updates going on as well on the exchange side. Those updates are ready and they're on our release candidate, which release candidate is actually the back end of the release candidate is the same back end as our live infrastructure. So while you can't see pounds yet, they're already integrated. So yeah, it just had to do with updates, had nothing to do with the amount of new clients. And yes, we're 100% ready to onboard new clients. As far as what we can do in terms of load, we can very quickly launch up additional nodes. We currently have, I think we have one node running. That single node can handle thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions, and we can push up new nodes at will. And that's why, again, the system was made modular. So no issue there. And the fact that new clients are coming in has nothing to do with some of the little small glitches that might have popped up over the last day or two. It was us getting ready through the release candidate for the launch of GPP. Will 5 promo ever come back? We'll come back. Yeah, and other promos like it will come back as well. We'll just be looking at how we target and where we target those campaigns. So obviously we brought on a lot of people from very specific countries this time. We're gonna have to see how those clients evolve, whether they become active, whether they become revenue generators. If they don't, then obviously we retool a bit. That amount may get higher, it may go lower, it may stay the same, but different promotions and new promotions along the same lines will definitely happen. It's a process. It's a process of finding out how the clients come in, what the acquisition cost ends up being, what they actually produce in revenue, what the end cost is for the campaign when you calculate, all the different pieces of the campaign. So yeah, it's a process, but definitely you'll see something like that return in the future. How is marketing going now that the promo is over? Marketing is still full steam ahead. So lots of things going on. But you got to remember, guys, it's not just about, so, new dashboard. It's not just about pounds going live. And then after that, Australian dollars and Swedish kroner and then USD. USD probably. So I had a call, by the way, so we're fully onboarded with the USD provider. They were actually astounded at the way that we onboard clients. So our admin interface, the data we collect, how we collect it, how we safeguard it, all the aspects of how we do our onboarding and our monitoring going forward. They were, I would say, they didn't expect it, and they were kind of at a loss for words, I think, at the end of the call. And so the one issue, though, is in order to get USD through their banking partner, we have to have 3 months worth of history with this particular provider. So we will launch some other currencies with them initially, probably in the next week to 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks max, somewhere in that time frame. Depends on the other release schedules. And then after 3 months, we will roll out USD. So USD is a bit delayed from them. The great thing is that the relationship started off on the right foot. They know we're serious. And I do feel that they're going to come through. They were very upfront with us. We didn't have to wait 2-3 weeks to find out. They told us immediately. So moving on. So anyway, you have to remember, guys, that there's so many things coming on board. That's not to mention Montenegro, the sandbox, trading of securities, the first issuance into Ignium in July, secondary trading of that bond in August, the CoinMetro bond going live in August, secondary trading happened as well in CoinMetro. All the primary also happening through the CoinMetro interface, a brand new kind of markets page, which will allow people to click through, kind of like a crowdfunding website to see details on all these different offerings through the primary market. There are so many things going on. There's so many aspects of advertising and marketing that tie into all those pieces. Marketing is very, 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 very busy, and they're doing different things with testing, landing pages, new landing pages. We have a very cool landing page going live shortly. I won't spoil what it's about, but you'll find out over the coming week or so, tied into education, so that we can start to use some more advertising techniques in the EU through different social media. Lots of things going on. They are pedal to the metal, guys. So. Can you say how many new signups you have made in the past few days? Do you know statistics, how much withdrawal 5 and how much stay and trade? So those statistics are still being calculated because obviously, yeah, we have statistics, but they change, right? And these type of things, I like being transparent, 100%. At the same time, one of the, I guess from an exchange standpoint, one of our business secrets kind of ties into our metrics, because we get those metrics right and we can storm through any competition. One of the major things you have to do once you have a product to sell is to get those metrics right. That's the science. Getting the product is the first kind of hurdle. Product that works, that's as better than everyone else, whatever. That's step one. Step two is finding the metrics to get people to use it. Once you find those metrics, you fine tune those costs. You're off to the races. So what I will tell you is that we were surprised that we kind of netted out in terms of people withdrawing that €5 promo, and people actually either buying XCM to lock it, or buying XCM simply to hold it, and or doing transactions on the exchange. So we basically, not approximately netted out, meaning that we ended at a zero cost base, or close to it. So obviously that's still evolving, so it'll still keep evolving. That may change a bit, but we'll see. How many new signups in the past few days? So I haven't checked in the past few days, actually, but I think we were steady around, we had fallen down to maybe 600 signups. And then I think we probably steadied around somewhere around 400 to 500, I think is the last thing I checked. I haven't checked the last two days or so, but I think we were starting to stabilize around that number. And most of those were coming through affiliate. So. Hey, Kevin and guys, this is the greatest AMA question of all time. How much XCM had euros sold in the past 3 months? Oh, GDPR, guys. GDPR. Can't share with you how much euros is sold, or if euros is sold at all. But I do know the data, so I can see it. I just can't tell you about it. Euros can, though, if he wants. It's his account. He can let you know. Seems like real asset tokenization is gaining popularity from Michael. Yeah, I would say, we will, as long as no one does it before us, and I don't expect that to happen before July, we will be the first in the world to do a literal end-to-end transaction with a tokenized security. It's never happened. There's been bond issuances that have traded between the same counterparty. There have been primary market issuances. There have been primary market issuances and then the attempt at tradability on the secondary market, but not with cross-border settlement. There have been secondary market trading of STOs on certain platforms, but without settlement, without integrated custody, and without creation and distribution. So no one's actually gone end to end, where you have creation of the asset, primary sale, primary billboard style sale of the asset outside of an order book, distribution of the asset, secondary market trading of the asset, and real-time global settlement on, that actually correlates to an on-chain environment inside that secondary market trading. Hasn't happened yet, and we're going to do it in July, and that's huge. And I think that, a lot of people that have heard this before, they got kind of hyped up about Montenegro Sandbox, but I don't think they really understood, or at least most people don't understand what that really means. It's absolutely massive. There's companies out there that have done a tenth of that and are valued, at 10 times the valuation of CoinMetro without any revenue whatsoever. So it's very big. It's big for both companies, both for Ignium and CoinMetro, and it's equally as big for any issuer that comes on board. So we're excited. I mean, it's a project that's getting worked on right now, visually and connectivity and everything between several different teams, and it's going to be a big one. What's holding the increase in leverage? So we have a few liquidity changes that are coming on board, which will help us immensely to get that done. To be honest, there's so many things that are being focused on. It's on a to-do list, and unfortunately, it's not number one on the to-do list. But the increase in liquidity and the way that liquidity is provided on that margin side is going to enable us to probably, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, don't quote me on this one, but just get rid of that. Basically, you can use as much collateral as you want. What we probably will do for safety is that a client that originally signs up may have a certain amount of time, 30 days maybe, where they're going to be limited in collateral. Be a pop-up there that explains why. It's to protect them, but they will be able to take it off if they want to, but they will knowingly take it off. So this way, if they put too much into collateral, then they knew that it was a risk, right? We want to make sure that our clients are aware that there's a risk. At the same time, though, I don't see a reason to limit our clients. The reason why there's a limit in place now is because we're having to provide deliverable liquidity ourselves. We have to provide essentially the margin. And that means that we need to have that margin on hand. And that's why we can't allow everyone just to go unlimited, because basically we don't have unlimited funds to be able to provide the underlying margin. So again, there's a few changes that need to happen. All of them are in motion. So it's going to happen. It's not number one on the to-do list, but it's not number 50 either. So, you're between 1 and 50. So it's a good chance that it happens pretty soon. Can you change the FPS on the camera to 60? Doesn't seem smooth. Yeah, sure. I don't think I can do that midstream here. I'd have to get up. I could call somebody in to do it, but that might. But yeah, we'll have a look at that. We'll have a look at that. This is still kind of a bit of test mode. I'll be filming some of the first non-AMA videos with this setup over the weekend. So I'll have some time to tweak and tweak and tweak. So hopefully next week we'll have a really polished AMA. The most polished one we've had. We'll have a little lower third image that'll come up, name and who I am, and maybe some background imagery as well. And I'll actually have a haircut and I'll shave. So just for you guys. Can YouTube can stream at 1080 60? Yeah, I believe they can. So no big deal there. Have you got any data on the people who signed up? Okay, we already covered that one. Can you say something for the new users that are watching now? Why will be the best change in the cryptoverse? So yeah, I could say a lot about that actually, but I think there's, a lot of times you come onto a new platform, it's new to you. Maybe you've seen other crypto platforms. Maybe you've seen Binance or Coinbase or Bittrex or whatever. You've been on another crypto platform. And for you, crypto platform is a crypto platform, right? So what's the difference? For us, we spent a lot of time building product, a lot of time, effort, and money on building product. And that journey has brought us to a point where we have one of the tightest, I think, communities that exist online. We have one of the best platforms that exist online, if not the best in many ways, shapes, and forms. We constantly innovate. We constantly go back, retool what we've done. We take our community feedback quite seriously, and we execute on it. We have some of, if not the lowest fees in the industry. We have fiat on-ramps. You can come on with euro right now. By next week, you'll be able to come on with pounds for €1 or £1 to send a local transaction. We will have SWIFT in those currencies. Australian dollar will be coming online. Swedish kroner will be coming online within the next 3 months. The US dollar as well. Debit cards are coming online. Personal IBAN accounts linked to those debit cards are coming online. Those debit cards will open up a myriad of different things that you'll be able to play around with, like the ability to create your own vaults and have spare change or multiples of your spare change being thrown in. All these things will be coming over time. We are all about regulation. We're all about licensing. We're all about doing the right thing the right way. We don't run into markets to make mistakes. We slowly walk into markets so that we do things the correct way. We're here for the long term. We have 24/7 customer support. No one delivers good, if not any 24/7 customer support. It's never good. Our guys are there 24/7. They work their asses off to make sure that questions are answered, that people have the information they need. And that's hard to find anywhere in finance, never mind in crypto. So look, we have a holistic business. We don't plan on going anywhere. We serve not just crypto traders, not just people that are underbanked, we service a wide swath of clients. Our affiliate program is absolutely amazing. It's the best in the industry. Whether there's a €5 promo or not, you're going to have a hard time to find a better affiliate program. You can make a living by being affiliate for CoinMetro, hands down. Look, there's a million reasons. I could sit here probably 2 hours and go over all the virtues of why I think dealing with us is just where you should be, and it's only going to get better, right? I'm not here personally as the founder and the CEO to build up a number of clients and then sell out to Barclays. That's not the game plan here. CoinMetro started as a community, and it will continue to work as a community, and we will grow as a community. And once we have this CoinMetro bond product, imagine being able to receive those vaulted rebates, but as equity in the company. You become an equity owner of the company by simply transacting with us. So the clients own the company. That's where we're headed, and I think that's super cool. And I don't see anybody else heading. I mean, if we had an infographic of what we're doing, what we plan to do, how we operate, what our mantra is, what our values are, and compared that to everyone else in crypto, I don't think there'd be anyone else on the infographic. So there you go. Kev, can you please change your playback speed to at least 1.5? Now you're look, when it comes to regulation, finance, you can ask me any question you want, and I can give you an answer. Playback speed at 1.5, mind blown. But I will have somebody that knows what they're doing, make sure that's adjusted for the next one. Thanks for the tip. Any update on funding? Not specifically, no. We have a lot of tentacles out there. CoinMetro Bond is coming, which would be another tentacle. So I'd say the update is we're chugging along. We're cruising along. I did have a few calls within the last 2 weeks. No calls this week, really all about just getting things launched for different products here and other aspects of the business, banking accounts, all that good stuff. But no specific updates, but yeah, we're moving forward, that's for sure. And we're kind of back and forth with a few different introducers, setting up calls. And though our main introducer, I think, is on holiday for a week, so I might get a week off from making fundraising calls. But by next week after, we'll be right back in the thick of things. Yeah, don't forget, thumbs up. I see 25 thumbs up and 47 people, guys. Somebody is falling asleep at the wheel. Like, I expect to see that at 47, man. I mean, just, move your mouse, take this thing, You might have a better one than this, but take this, scroll up, click. You know, it's pretty easy. 27 now, better. Still up 28. Okay, good guys. Thank you. Hey Kevin, how's the CSD going? So we already gave an update on that. Is it possible to launch IEOs? So IEO was a term made by ICOs because they no longer they know ICO wasn't working, so they went from initial coin offering to initial exchange offering. Did the offering on the exchange, expecting to take advantage of the exchange's database. Those obviously didn't really work out all that well for the investors either, because most of the exchanges that had most of the IEOs would simply vet tokens for clients. They would have their own tokens. They would pump the market when no one else could sell. And then as soon as everybody was able to sell, the market crashed. Obviously didn't really work out for most people. Few maybe did okay, most didn't. So these will be essentially tokenized IPOs. This works very much in the traditional sense, where a company will raise funds and through some type of primary offering, and then push an initial public offering out on a platform. The first issuances will be bonds, so not necessarily like IPOs, but it's essentially fundraising via debt. So you will buy a bond token. That bond token will pay a coupon rate, an interest rate, fixed or variable interest rate over the course of the bond, which will be between 6 months and 2 years. You will make a daily interest rate for 6 months to 2 years on when you hold that bond token, but you will be able to sell it at any time inside the secondary market, which means if at some point you need your cash back, your principal back, you can go ahead and sell it at market, and someone else will earn that interest, and you'll get your principal back. And obviously, it's a market price, so you may not get the same price. You may get more, you may get less, but you have the option to liquidate, which in the bond market is exceptional, I would say, especially to retail investors. But those bond tokens will also have the ability to convert into growth tokens, equity-like tokens that give you all the benefits of an equity owner without actually having to go through the process to become an equity owner. So you will get, revenue share, dividend payments on any sale of the underlying company. You would get your portion of that sale as well. Or the profit from that sale. So yes, I would say from the instance that these are initial offerings, yes, we will. I wouldn't call them IEOs though. You should get a domain, CoinMetro.crypto, and do this live there. Love to listen to you, Kevin. Is there .crypto domains now? I didn't know they had a TLD crypto. We have a lot of TLDs. I think I own like 40 myself, and you'll see some of them start to come to life over the coming months as we start to use them. I'll give you a sneak peek at one. It's forehead.army. So everybody wants to jump in on that one. I haven't figured out what we're going to do on that one yet, but what about debit cards and withdraw? What about debit card and withdrawn to U.S. banks? So SWIFT will be available. SWIFT will allow you to withdraw to a U.S. bank. Initially, SWIFT is going to happen with euros and pounds, and then with Australian dollars, and then SEC. Once we get USD live, it'll be SWIFT enabled. So you'll be able to SWIFT USD to the US. That won't happen for 3 months now, as I explained earlier in the show. Even though we've been onboarding with this provider, their underlying provider needs 3 months worth of transaction history through that same provider for us to get access to USD. So we'll just simply have some additional currencies with them, and then eventually in 3 months get USD. But you can still use, you'll very, very quickly, before the end of June, be able to use SWIFT for euros, pounds, probably Australian dollars, as well as, and we'll have, we probably will institute a stable coin at some point, USD based as well. So obviously that's not SWIFT, but you'd be able to move USD out that way as well. Debit card, you mean the physical debit card? So we should have, next week, we'll have our finalized designs. We will throw those off to the printer. 30 days from there, within 30 days, debit card will be ready to launch. So mid-July at the latest, looks like the time frame right now. XCM Euro and XCM GBP going to be the same book in the end? I think that we have to look right now, XCM Euro book we don't want to hurt liquidity in that book. So we do have a lot of clients from the UK who will probably want to transact in GBP. So we may make a synthetic book off the Euro book. So yes, using the same underlying book. We may choose to simply do some other type of kind of conversion where someone can come in and trade their kind of pounds for euros type of thing. Or we may do a synthetic from the underlying. Synthetic from the underlying is probably more probable what we're going to do using an indicative Euro GBP rate. Will we see USD stablecoin before real USD then? We might, yeah. That looks like that will probably happen. Yes, considering the delay. Before we knew about this delay, which we found out yesterday, then I would say no. But any new coin listings on the horizon? There are no right now. I would say we used to have a bottleneck, which was banking, which was our banking provider. We don't have that bottleneck anymore. We have additional providers. We have additional infrastructure. So we still have to do our internal checks. But yes, I would say it's even possible in June, but because we have so much on the table, it might not happen until July. But listing new assets is definitely on the cards. And there's a few that have been requested. Some of that are in the top 10, top 20 cryptocurrencies as per, let's say, well, as per CoinMarketCap, for example, that we more than likely will start listing in the very near future. So the bottleneck, I guess, that would appear now would simply be if it's something that isn't well known to not be a security, it would require us to go through a process. Even if it is a security with the Montenegro sandbox, we can potentially still list it, even though it would only last throughout the sandbox. But that's a 2-year time period, so that's quite a long. That's quite a long time. Any new coin listings on the horizon? Okay, got that one. Hi, Kevin. Are specific country promotions being considered targeting UK users launch a GBP? So UK has its own licensing. So specifically targeting UK can get a bit tricky, though we're not required to have the license because we have no physical presence. So I think it's the UK doesn't have the same type of guidelines or laws as, let's say, Germany does. If we have a website in German, for example, we would be considered to be targeting them specifically, and thus we would need to have a license there. Everybody's main website language normally on websites that target globally is English. Thus, they don't have that specific kind of barrier in the UK. So we'll have to see if that's something we can do. Off the top of my head, I think we can. But yes, specific targeted country promotions are definitely something that we will be looking into. Once we get more data from more global campaigns to where we're really seeing uptake, that's when we start to target locally and retarget locally, which is almost even more important. Digitex aimed for the same. Yeah. Look, I think at the end of the day, look, a trend in all businesses, even your Walmarts, your airlines, your big box stores, your clothing retailers, whatever, they're all going to start moving towards allowing clients to own the company. I can guarantee it. That's going to be a trend we're going to see probably throughout the 2020s. It's going to pick up. And by 2030, I would imagine most of the global Fortune 500s have something in place where you can have equity-like ownership in the underlying company. And there's a million reasons why they will do that. And without going through all of them, I'll just say that it's inevitable. So, okay, yeah, it doesn't exist. I didn't think it did. We could, and to register a TLD, you're talking, I think it's about $250,000, maybe $200,000 US you have to pay to register one at this point. Yeah, well, Ethereum has domains. There's a few other blockchains actually that do them. We have an Ethereum domain. It's CoinMetro.eth. I bought that as soon as I knew what Ethereum domains were, actually. But it was actually, I think it's tied to the main wallet from our token sale, actually. What's the sentiment tracking feature being implemented? When? So sentiment. So the developers have feedback from us on sentiment. I think it may have already made its way to some type of sandbox on their side. I don't know. I haven't seen it on our side yet. More than likely next week you'll see that roll out in its first instance. Any news on marketing partner you signed up with recently? Well, I guess you will. If you're quick enough and you pick up what we're throwing down. Who said that? That's a saying for somebody. Anyway, if you pick up what we're throwing down, when you see the new dashboard and the login screens particularly, you'll figure out who that marketing partner is. Celsius launches a 15 million equity raise with Bank to the Future, looking for community participation to participate. Well, Celsius, I was just commenting about this. So I know I've shared a few stages virtually as of late with Alex Machensky from Celsius. Smart guy. We share a lot of the same sentiment. I think they already had some venture backing, and I think their venture backing just went through Bank to the Future. They listed and raised 10 million in 20 minutes with 47 backers or something like that. So it was pre-planned for sure to get some publicity. So good on them, because they're going to get some publicity. But that's a little different. That's them having to go and buy it. What I'm talking about is you use the platform and you can choose. Do you want your rewards to be given back to you in XCM, or do you want them to be given to you in a growth token that gives you equity-like ownership of the company? And there'll be many other things that will allow you to get into that ownership as well without actually having to make a purchase. So that's the difference. Of course, the bond token will eventually, purchasing the bond token will lead you to equity ownership at the end anyway. But that requires a purchase, whereas the other side doesn't. Are you in the process of acquiring additional licensing? What licenses are you currently planning to go after next? We have currently 1 license in process, also in the EU. We've done research in 4 or 5 other countries in the EU to make sure we do, or if we do or do not need those licenses. We currently are in talks with another country in the EU outside of those, where we're trying to see if we actually need the license or not. We may start a process there. So yeah, right now kind of focused on the EU, since these are all localized licenses. Reverse solicitation should be something that we can take advantage of, given the fact that they're all based on a EU-wide directive, and that's the 5th Anti-Money Laundering Directive. But when you talk to different lawyers and you talk to different law firms, sometimes they say different things. So we have to dig into those. But one European license, well known to this community, because I think we made fun of somebody else talking about it recently, is in process. Exciting times ahead. Agreed. When will the automated XCM fee buying be implemented and shown on the dashboard main site? That's all going to come with more volume, but we do have a special place on the dashboard that's already kind of earmarked. It's not going to be there in this first dashboard release because, well, we're not doing it yet. But yeah, like we said in the past, it all depends on volumes, but it's going to happen. The more volume that comes in, the quicker it happens. Kevin's head position is perfect for that YouTube chat on full screen to read the live chat. Is that the purpose? I just thought you wanted to see my big head even bigger. Yeah, I don't know. This is just trying to change a bit, get a little more professional on the AMA. So I guess it worked. I mean, I really should have shaved though, because I keep looking at myself every once in a while, and I'm slightly embarrassed that I didn't break out the razor this morning. Transparency page. So transparency page, I guess with new website launch, there'll be a new landing page for the website very, very, very soon. The new website itself will probably be a few months in the making. Probably towards the end of the year, I would imagine we'll have a full, completely redesigned website, not just a landing page. Okay, guys, I actually have a call that I'm missing. I'm 4 minutes late for. Back-to-back calls, many of these Fridays and every other day, to be honest. So I'm going to have to sign off. As usual, thank you guys. Appreciate it. I see 35 likes. So we almost got to the 47 that I saw at some point actually hanging out in the room. Actually, might have went higher than 47, but that's the number I saw when I looked over. But thanks a lot for the likes. If you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe. It just helps us do bigger and better things, and that helps all of us, right? So why not? As I always say, spend time with friends and family. Most people in the world now can actually do that. If you're still under lockdown and you can't, Skype them, Zoom them, WhatsApp them, WeChat them. Do whatever you need to do. Put a smile on somebody's face. Make somebody's day a little brighter if they're stuck at home. Evan, if you're on lockdown in Hong Kong, big hello to you. Hang in there, buddy. You only got a few days left. Yeah, have a great weekend. Obviously, when you're talking to your friends and your family and they ask you what you're doing and what's interesting in your life, just hold up a notebook that's with XCM written on it, and just let them know. Let them know that that's really what matters. All right, guys. I'm fooling around, but have a great weekend. Talk to you guys next week. Tag me on Telegram at Kevin Murcko. Tag me on Twitter at Kevin Murcko. Ask me what you want. I will answer you. If I don't, tag me again. All right. Cheers. Good weekend, guys.